Good morning. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, welcoming you to this Friday, November 11, 2022. Umaaraw naman po at mukhang malinaw ang hinaharap natin. We are facing a very bright and clear day. I do hope you are all excited for this coming weekend. But please be excited for your days of rest. Hindi yung days of dadagdagan na naman ninyo yung pagod ninyo. Ano po? Okay? And that's why God designed the day of Sabbath or the day of rest. Hindi para yung weekend nyo gawin ninyong puro house chores lang. Pagpasok nyo sa Monday, patana naman kayo. Okay, as I said, it's a Friday. And we thank you. We thank, of course, as always, subscribers of Cignal TV. Please talk about Cignal TV to your friends, especially those in the provinces, because we have so much to offer, so many programs, so many channels, so much information, especially here on One News. Okay, and thank you for those of you who follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Cignal Play app. Let's now go to our daily starter for the day. Medyo kakaiba ito. It is Bhagavad Gita. From the Bhagavad Gita, I believe it is a book of teaching among those in India, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, please. Ito nakita ko and I found it quite interesting. And the daily starter for today goes, detachment is not that you own nothing. Detachment is that nothing owns you, okay? Because in this life, some people get sick and tired of the material world, parang Madonna, and then they get tired of the rat race, etc. So they just walk away from everything. They seek the third eye or the inner peace, etc. And alam niyo po, it is easy to live in peace in the desert, okay? But it is not a measure of your ability. Dito, if you can be surrounded by all the material things, but if they don't own you, they don't possess you, they don't eat up your time, they don't eat up your thoughts, they don't eat up your emotions, then that is the measure of detachment and the measure of contentment. Okay, medyo malayo pa ako dyan kasi puro na lang panabong na nasa utak ko kaninang umaga. Okay, you have to forgive me. I am that type of character. When I get into something, I really obsess about it. Okay, now let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And today's headline, BBM eyes waiving VAT on power and on toll fees. Okay? President Marcos has asked the leadership of the House of Representatives to study the possibility. Okay? Study the possibility. Inuulit ko, pag-aralan, pwede ba waiving value-added tax on electricity and road tolls to cushion the impact of soaring inflation and high interest rates. So, I'm not being sarcastic, I am not being critical, pero baka mamaya magtalunan na kayo dyan. Hindi pa po, pinapatingnan lang, pinapasilip. Kumbaga, tingnan mo nga, pwede kaya? Type nyo ba? Pero ika nga, kahit na gawin, aspirin pa lang yan or aspilet. Okay, the header of the front page, President Marcos again, Bantag runs own fiefdom inside Bilibid. BBM during interviews on his plane ride to Cambodia, I believe, had expressed the belief that now suspended Bilibid Director General Gerald Bantag was running his own kingdom and his own organization in the Bilibid and using it for his personal gain or nefarious activities. Everyone has an opinion. We have to figure out kung totoo talaga. Unless you have seen it with your own eyes, tasted it with your own tongue, and heard it with your own ears, tawag doon sabi-sabi. Still no Nazareno Traslacion in 2023. Okay, come January, yung mga deboto ng Black Nazarene, mga deboto or participants in the Traslacion, sorry po, stay at home pa rin tayo because the reality is that sort of activity is very risky for public health and safety. Pero kung kampanya yan, eleksyon, okay lang sa kanila yan. Okay. Medyo pakasarkastiko ngayong umaga, no? Ganyan po, pag kulang sa tulog. Okay, that big photo at the top of the front page, students of Rafael Palma Elementary School in San Andres Bukid, hindi po yan nagtatago sa kanilang teacher dahil ayaw nilang mag-recite. Okay? Sila po are taking part of the takeover under a desk drill during the fourth quarter simultaneous earthquake drills yesterday. Okay. Kasi baka sabihin nyo, nagtatago sa pamalo. Hindi po. Yan yung mga earthquake drills. Hide under the table. Eto, napakaliit na box. A very small box on the front page of the Philippine Star. Economy grows 7.6% in third quarter. Bakit kaya napakaliit na box yan sa front page ng Philippine Star if it is supposed to be such a big positive development? We will find out from our esteemed expert, our guest this morning from the RCBC Bank. He is the Chief Economist of RCBC Bank. Pag-uusapan natin all about this economic thingamajiggies. We will ask him to give us a lecture para naman sulit yung kanyang pagsali sa atin dito sa agenda. Okay, and further down in the front page, the middle photo is a photo of representatives of the ASEAN, also of BBM in the meeting where BBM, President Bongbong Marcos, reiterated the need for ASEAN consensus on Sea Code. Sabi ni BBM sa aeroplano on the way to the conference in Phnom Penh, natutulog yata yung pinag-uusapan. It seems that the discussion has become dormant and he wanted to stir things up, wake up the issue so that there will be some sort of civility and agreement, not arguments, regarding conduct in the South China Sea or Philippine Sea. Okay. Photo to the right of the front page center is a photo of President Marcos walking down the steps of the Royal Palace of Cambodia with other ASEAN heads of state and government after paying a visit to King Norodom Sihamoni before the ASEAN summit in Phnom Penh. Okay, yan po, no? And then, Remulla to explain Philippine rights record before the UN body. Okay, let's say a prayer for Secretary Crispin Remulla, who is now flying today to Switzerland to explain matters to the United Nations Human Rights Council Review Committee regarding the track record or the events happening in the Philippines and what the current administration is doing about the record of the past administration. We have to be fair kasi yun po yung masaklap nun okay? Pag i-explain mo yung ginawa ng mga nakaalis na, okay? Anyway, to the left bottom of the front page of the Philippine Star, we have a photo of officials of Quezon City and of the Eastwood City Development Group lighting their own 50-foot Christmas tree last night. So, usong-uso na ngayon yan. Bukasan na ng ilaw ng Christmas tree dahil kailangan may attraction sa mga shopping center. And to the right of the front page, last two pieces of news, UP grad tops October 2022 physician licensure with a score of 89%. Justin Adriel Zentogonon of UP College of Medicine in Manila topped the 5,958 graduates who took the examination last October. Another UP Manila graduate, Francesca Marie Lagrosa, placed second with a grade of 88.75%. Pero hindi lang naman po UP ang nagtagumpay. Marami ring mga nasama sa top 10 coming from different schools and some of them schools as far as Davao. So as far as all of these outstanding students and licensure exam takers, it seems that the schools are improving, are now better, pero pag-uusapan natin yan in the coming days. Last but not the least, bivalent vaccines seen suitable as third booster. Okay, according to specialists, if you really want added protection, get the bivalent vaccine. The newer vaccine will provide protection against variants. Ayan po. We will continue to follow that story. But for now, let's go on with our program. It's 8:12 a.m. Kung napanood po niyo ito sa hapon, hindi po ako si Raulo. Replay na po ang pinapanood ninyo. Because just before I introduce our guests, I have some friends, some viewers who are complaining, Cito, I sent you a message. You didn't even acknowledge it in your program. Sabi ko, anong oras po kayo nanood? Kasi live po sa umaga, hindi po ako panggabi. Okay, let's now go to our guest for today. As I said, we are going to speak with the Chief Economist of the RCBC, Rizal Banking, RCBC, Rizal Banking Commercial. Pa-explain ko na lang nga sa kanya, pero mamaya na yun. Okay, let's roll out the Betamax, Gab.
Mike Ricafort is the Chief Economist of RCBC. He has been with the said bank since 2006. Ricafort obtained his Master of Business Administration degree from the Ateneo Graduate School of Business.
Okay, thank you Gabriel for telling me what RCBC stands for. Kung minsan sinasadya ko po, nagpapatawa lang ako. Kumbaga, kasama sa pasakali yun. Okay? Better to look silly, okay, and entertaining than to look too smart. Okay, or sound too smart. Mike Ricafort, good morning to you, senyor.
Hi, good morning po, Sir Cito and your viewers.
Okay, wag mo na akong siniser, sabi sa'yo eh. Okay, you're the Chief Economist of the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation. Okay, ngayon, ito ang tanong ko. First of all, what is the job of a Chief Economist in a bank? Because, you know, all guys like me, passbook generation, face-to-face transaction, parang hindi pa uso yung chief economist na mga bangko-bangko noon. Malaking bagay na yung may branch. Pero ngayon may chief economist pa. What has happened to banking and what is your role in it?
True, Cito. It has global. Well, banking has globalized. No, it's aligned with what the banks in developed countries are doing. In the sense that first, the chief economist serves the bank itself. It's the both internal clients, the bosses, as well as the employees, as well as, of course, our clients. And the general public. So we do intensive research on economic data, on financial market performance as well, and those that that are important to the bank's business, for lending, for investments, and of course the decisions on which business to lend to or to enter. So we provide inputs to that. So it's part of the evolving requirements of the banks worldwide. It's unlike before. That's true. When I joined the banking industry, that's one of my also. Well, that's what I envision, and apparently, I moved into that kind of path because around the world, we see the biggest banks in the U.S., in Europe, and in other developed countries. They have something a role like that. So that's part of growth. No? As
so parang ikaw yung mamang may crystal ball, pero yung crystal ball mo computer linked to the world to tell you what are the things you look out for, and how do you translate this into something that the members of the board of directors, or the planners can utilize and roll out into their policies or services?
Well, Cito, it's also very important that that the country's economic data, and the other information and numbers have evolved and improved through time, and we have seen also increased transparency by the local authorities in doing so, as well as their signaling. So, unlike before, as they call it, if you have information that's relevant, you can make sound decisions, and you can have a sound assessment, a reasonable and fair assessment of the economy, the financial markets, businesses, industries, and so on with the data. And we have seen also our country as a whole, full of nation approach, improving all of its data. And that's at par with what the rest of the world is doing, no? Aligned with global best practices. So we have better metrics to speak of. These are performance metrics for the economy and the markets, because people can either make or lose, no? Money when it comes to the opportunities that present themselves, and the risks also that poses threats from time to time. Because now we're an increasingly globalized economy. We're interrelated with the rest of the world.
But in the physical realm, in actual situation within the corporate office, are you guys like one entire floor of geeks, nerds, and intelligence officers, or banca, or statisticians, that all you do is research? Or is it, like parang puro na computers, apps, programs, and it just goes, deep. We've got a dip in the interest rates, or, inflation, etc. How does it look in the physical realm?
Well, true. That's a combination of what you mentioned, Cito. Actually, those are the realities. No? So there may be teams. Especially when I was in another group within the bank. So I had a team there, where at least 5 or 6 people working on practically macroeconomics, industries, and we do service the requirements of the various units, from senior management, the lending officers, the investment officers, and so on within the bank, and even to clients. No? And the general public, we do also give assessments and outlook as well. No? We do that's part of the, kasi it's becoming competitive also globally. So that's
Mhm.
one of the additional or value-added services and products that we offer to as a differentiating factor to as a part of our competitive advantages. So it's a complete service, so to speak, in terms of the holistic.
Yeah, but in terms of the actual movement and services of a bank, what are the direct inputs or what are triggered by the chief economist and his team? Are you guys responsible for when the bank puts up the interest rate, shorten the period for time deposits? Parang ano ba kasi? Sorry, wala akong ganong pera, hindi ako nakakapagbangko ng ganong klase. Pero when you guys move, what are the things that happen?
Actually, at the very least, we provide the crucial inputs to senior management, to the board, to the also to the other, even up to the frontliners, those who deal directly with clients, those who make the decisions. So we do provide inputs. Even when I was starting, those positions are not in existence yet in domestic banks, say 20 or 20 plus years ago. So the list that we have been doing, maybe in another capacity when I was still a trader, we also feed information, especially
Like what?
like during the Asian financial crisis, there were volatilities. Prior to that, there were already signals of possible. For instance, we have seen in 1997, prior to that crisis, there were already telltale signs. So we already say those signals in advance, as we see them on a daily basis. Say if there would be movements on interest rates in other countries like Hong Kong, the HIBOR back then was suddenly spiking up. Then, of course, other interest rates in the region, in other Southeast Asian countries, and of course, it all started in Thailand in the around June or July 1997. So, and at the same time, at least it's a balance. As it evolved and developed further, we monitor kasi economics practically demand and supply. That's the 101 for economics, demand and supply.
Okay.
With the broad data like our economy, no? Like we saw the growth figures, the GDP figures at surprisingly higher than expected at 6.6%. So that's the big picture, no? So we do try
But
to.
you know that's strange, Mike, because I was reading the news, and every time this happens, people seem to act surprised ba? Na, wow, the economy performed much better than expected. And I'm like, you guys were forecasting and now you're surprised. Parang, what is the basis of your science? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, the economic managers. I'm talking about the financial community, that they always make a forecast, and as expected, it's always better than forecasted. I'm beginning to suspect na, teka, are they under projecting expectations so that, kumbaga, instead of shooting for the moon and hitting the stars, shoot for Laguna de Bay, and kung tamaan mo yung Manila de Bay, swerte mo.
True, Cito. Actually, we have to consider the fact that it's from a different, the forecasts came from different sectors, from the banks, from the academe, and independent researchers. So there's no pollution or there's no deliberate move to understate it or to underestimate the forecast. No? So
Okay.
it's based on rational expectations, because we have seen the risk factors lately. No? We have seen higher inflation, higher prices that fundamentally eaten up some of what would otherwise have been used for consumption by the general public, by the government, by the businesses. So, and at the same time, yeah, and we have seen interest rates going up as a result of the need to, well, because well, like overnight, no, a few hours ago, we had at least some good news from the U.S. Their inflation was lower than expected, so they were also pleasantly surprised. Well, in the U.S., no, they were estimating somewhere like 7.9% U.S. inflation or CPI for the month of October. So apparently, they were surprised to see that it is to 7.7, although it may not be that far, no? 7.9 versus the expectations versus 7.7. So yeah, so naman eh. Kasi,
let's talk about this 7.6 third quarter performance or better than expected performance. Kasi yung binasa ko, sabi the economy during the last quarter performed better than in 2021. Now, don't get me wrong, but if I remember correctly, 2021 was hell. So parang for someone to say that the economy performed well, parang hello, anybody who starts from zero and goes to 0.01 or to 0.1 will be performing well. Parang is there an behavior where they conveniently overlook the fact that they started from negative or from zero, Mike?
Pero transparent, actually transparent naman po sila, no? In acknowledging that, no? Yung pagkasabi niyo po, ganun na ganun din naman yung pananaw din po ng karamihan, no? Actually, that's my ano rin eh. Ang lakas ng kutob ko rin doon. When mathematically, kasi ganun talaga. If you're starting from a low base, tapos mag-year-on-year reckoning ka, malaki talaga yung magnified yung progress o yung year-on-year change. Kaya lockdowns pa rin naman, may lockdowns pa rin naman tayo last year, no? In 2000. Tapos yung hard lockdowns noon 2020. Kaya low base effect yung tawag doon, low base, low denominator. So kung may increment tayo this year, dahil bukas na yung ating ekonomiya, wala na pong restrictions, malayang-malaya na tayo. We were just praying for this, itong estado natin na ito, na malaya na tayo, wala nang halos bawal, ultimo yung pag-wear ng mask. Voluntary na lang, except for a few cases, sa hospital, sa medical facilities, sa ambulansya, pati sa public transport. But other than that, ultimo yun, indoor, outdoor, voluntary na. Although, encourage pa rin naman doon sa matatanda, sa may immunocompromised, at saka doon sa mga may sakit na pwedeng makahawa. Pero, ganun, ito, pinapangarap lang natin ito. We were just, a year ago, 2 years ago, ayun ang pinagdadasal ng napakaraming tao, collectively and individually. So, ito na yun. Na-achieve na natin yung malayang
And I guess it's only right to be grateful naman. I mean, I'm just putting everything in perspective. Kasi meron din dyan mga pasaway na pinagmamalaki nila yung growth rate. Pero coming from zero, hello, anything is great. But nonetheless, okay, so we had growth rate compared to 2021 where we were only just asking to be allowed to go out, allowed to work, allowed to go to do some shopping, etc. So let's all be thankful. But now here's the question, Mike. 7.6. Whether it comes 7.6 from -10 or 7.6 from 0 or 7 whatever, what does it translate to? Anong ibig sabihin nito in the real lives of Filipinos?
Parang, kung si-simplify, if you have to simplify this, Cito, with the reopening of the economy, we have seen more jobs available. Unlike, say, a year ago, 2 years ago, when there were restrictions and lockdowns, some people or a lot of people lost jobs, lost livelihoods. When there was, or for instance, tourism was restricted for 2 years, and even children were not allowed to go to school physically for more than 2 years. So imagine yung the impact on jobs, on businesses, on livelihood that depend on those markets, no? On tourists, both local and foreign, and on students, on the retail, and even the big and small businesses, especially the MSMEs. So they were really hit hard. But now, they have finally, it's a dream come true. They have reopened. They resume already. The foreign tourism since February. The domestic tourism, of course, as alert level 1 was, the lowest alert level since March for Metro Manila and more other areas. Then finally, August 22, children were again allowed to go back to school. And now the target is 100% for government schools and blended learning for private schools still allowed. So, yeah, now more people regain their jobs, regain their livelihoods. Businesses already, they're well, at least a lot of businesses and industries, they're already posting higher or better sales revenues, and of course, incomes, and of course, consistent to that, they're hiring more
Okay,
people.
so the question I should be asking you, but let's go for a quick break first. I guess what I should be asking you is it just a situation, or does that 7.6% growth from third quarter represent a recovery, or does it represent actual growth? And based on what? Doon lang sa 2021, or should we really focus on pre-pandemic? Kasi parang in one sense, if you base it on pre-pandemic, mas accurate but also unfair, because 2020 to 2021 na delubyo tayo, na ina-impierno tayo. So that's also not fair. So anyway, we'll go for a quick break, Mike, and then I'll ask you to please be our lecturer, para medyo, kasi lagi na lang namin nadidinig yung growth rate 7.6, quarter this, quarter that. No, teka. Ako ba ano ba pakinabang namin dyan, di ba? Okay, we'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda, and thank you for continuing to stay with us. And with us is Mike Ricafort. He is the Chief Economist of the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation. Mike, let's get back into the groove. Sabi ko nga sa'yo kanina, ano gayan? Papakinabangan ba namin yan? Ano bang, I mean, people always wonder about that. All these experts talk about growth of percentages year on year, quarter on quarter. Pero ano ba talaga maaasahan natin from this particular report or news?
Actually, nag-improve. Tama po yung sinabi nyo kanina, yung konteksto. Talagang kailangan klaro tayo doon sa konteksto. Okay, nag-grow siya year on year, but we all know we came from the among the longest lockdowns in the world. No? Kumbaga talagang we have seen worse things. Siguro, yung worst na siguro yung 2020, yung hard lockdowns. Even for the rest of the world. April, May of 2020. Pero nag-reopen na yung buong mundo. Tapos tayo, may restriction pa rin yung Pilipinas. Hanggang na-carry over noong 2021. So marami pa rin bawal, wala pa rin yung mga turista, bawal pa rin sila pumunta dito, yung mga
Yes,
tourist.
yes.
O di sarado yung mga negosyo, yung mga hotel, yung mga travel, mga related sa, pati syempre yung mga empleyado ng mga tourist spots. No? Lalo na yung nagkikater din sa foreign tourists, nabawasan, ultimo yung domestic tourism, nabawasan din for those 2 years. No?
But if you go back to the third quarter of 2021, naka-lockdown pa rin, di ba? Nag-open lang tayo last quarter of 2021.
Totoo po, kasi meron pa rin tayong ECQ noon eh. Tinaon naman po nila, talagang inaral na noon, ginawang yung the ECQ or the hardest lockdown, large-scale lockdowns na still in existence back then, no Holy Week. Dahil nga para, may surge na noon, tapos yung bakuna nagsimula na pero delayed, no? Delayed, mga dumating pa lang sa atin end of February 2021. Tapos yung inoculation March 1 pa lang nagsimula, 2021. So may surge pa ng virus noon, no? ng COVID cases. Tapos pati noon na rin nung tinaon din nila noong August, no? Noong tagulan, noong ghost month, para kasi pagka may long holidays, Holy Week, tapos
pasensya ka na, Mike. I really, sorry, I have to be honest. I really don't like to dwell on the past anymore. It is such a dark past for all of us. Medyo habang binabanggit mo, talagang kumukunot yung noo ko. Parang, hello, pwede ba move on na tayo? Ako na maalala lahat yung mga namatay at nilibing namin. But as a chief economist for a bank, okay, what do these things translate to? Does it mean that more people can expect more jobs resulting from all of this? Pag nagkaroon ba ng increase o kaya better than projected sa economic growth, does it always translate to more companies opening up, more foreign direct investments coming into the country, or are we still in a wait and see because of the IMF pronouncement na the worst is yet to come? Kasi parang ito, hey guys, good news. Kanya lang, teka, good news nga compared to last year. Pero sabi, last year, wala tayong Ukraine war, wala tayong mga fuel problems, etc.
Ayun po yung biggest challenge, yung inflation. Magmula ng gera, no? Siya yung nag-trigger ng highest well, at least we have seen the highest prices in crude oil in more than a decade. Tapos relatively higher pa rin naman. Although we have seen the peak already no March, no, early part ng war. Nag-$130 yung NYMEX oil. Ngayon bumaba na lang to 86, no? Yung huling beses natin na nakita na mataas yan was $123 on middle of July. So, bumaba na. Kung nagtrabaho na yung mga central bank. Kasi, dahil, lumitaw na yung inflation eh. Hindi lang naman dito, pati sa buong mundo. Like in the US, yung 40-year highs yung inflation nila, no? Na, yung pinanggalingan since the early 1980s. So, ramdam ng buong mundo. In Europe, more than 10% pa nga in some European countries. Sa atin,
So kung hindi nagkagera, kung hindi nagkaroon ng inflation at ng fuel surges, etc., would it be safe to say that yung 7.6 growth na yan, baka naging 10 pa yan?
Totoo, Mr. Cito. Kasi dapat nasa na tayo eh. Parang ang epekto kasi ng oil for every $20 increase in global oil prices, based on yung requirements ng ating bansa, 1% ng 1 percentage point yung kinakain sa economic growth. So, albawa, may dagdag sana tayo na plus 1 percentage points pa sana.
For every $20 to the barrel?
That's right. Ganun po yung kalkulasyon doon. No?
Wow, ngayon ko lang nadinig yan. Thank you for the information. So every time the Arabs or whoever increases, or Russia increases the price per barrel by $20, it eats up 1% economic growth of a country.
Dito lang po sa Pilipinas.
Kasi, sa Pilipinas. Okay, so wow, malupit yun.
Okay, actually yun po yung trabaho talaga din namin. No? May science na behind. May math and may numbers behind them.
Yeah.
Kasi kinompute natin yung demand sa ating bansa. Tapos, syempre, yung pag may increment na $20, no? Pag minultiply natin yon, tapos, effectively, yung yung cost at ekonomiya natin, 1% ng ating ekonomiya.
Okay, I like what you opened up. You say there's a studies, may mga formulas na. What about unemployment? Kasi yesterday we guested Secretary Benny Laguesma, we guested Sunny Africa of the Ibon Foundation, and part of the research provided for me by Team Agenda pointed out that there are still many Filipinos who are out of jobs or who are extremely underemployed or are part of non-established employment areas, meaning family employee sila, self-employed sila, wala silang benefits, etc. Now, pag yung inflation ba tumataas, anong ibig sabihin nun?
Kasi ganun po yung impact no. Pag tumataas yung presyo ng bilihin, imbis na pang ano natin, yung mga negosyante, may bago silang investments or expansion plans, no? So, yun na dapat yung malalaan doon. Pero dahil sa pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, napupunta tuloy yung gugugulin na pondo doon sa pagbayad doon sa mataas na presyo ng langis, no? Na alam naman natin napupunta yun doon sa mga nagbebenta ng langis o yung mga nagbebenta ng commodities o tumaas yung presyo ng mga ibang commodities like yung mga wheat, yung mga ini-import natin, yung mga wala tayo, yung mga binibili natin from abroad. So, napupunta sa kanila yon, yung wealth, no? Yung spending na dapat para dito. Kaya tuloy, napupwersahan yung ibang mga negosyo at industriya na magtipid. Kaya, kasama din doon, syempre, apektado din yung labor sector natin. Tsaka galing tayo sa pandemya. Hindi pa talaga tayo balik na balik sa normal tulad po ng kinontext natin kanina.
But how do you explain the growth? Is this a artificial growth? Is this an engineered growth, meaning dahil gumastos ang government or dahil tayo nagkaroon ng eleksyon, for instance?
Totoo po yun. Kasi nung eleksyon, galing nga mathematically, may yung quantitative phenomenon po talaga yan dahil mababa yung pinanggalingan natin. Sobrang baba ng pandemya. So yung growth magnified, mukhang napakalaki. So, yun po talaga yung realidad na dapat natin i-acknowledge, no? Kasi, we really have to dig deeper. Although, hindi naman po yan unique sa atin. Pati yung mga kapitbahay po natin, ganyan din sila. Kasi nagka-Delta variant din sila. Nagka-surge yung India, yung ibang Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Indonesia. Nagka-lockdowns din po sila. Kaya yung growth nila, biglang napakalaki ngayon. Pero, we need to take that with a grain of salt. No?
Do you guys do averaging, Mike? Meaning, okay, sige, third quarter baka mo. Let's get the figures from third quarter of 2019, which was a good year. And then, okay, 2022, tinamaan tayo. 2021, tinamaan tayo. Nag-open tayo last quarter. 2022, bukas na tayo. Do you guys do averaging of the 4 years and come out with what I think, pasensya ka na, Math 11 ko, take 7 ako, hindi ko kinakaya, inaamin ko yun. I think that would provide a better picture, or am I wrong?
Tama po yun. Kasi ultimo sa buong mundo, yung mga biggest companies in the world, like sa US, pag nagkukumpara sila, mga airline, kasi lahat naman tayo, pati corporate earnings, magugulat tayo, high double-digit growth rates. Parang makikita natin ngayon yung mga nire-report na earnings. No? Consistent din doon sa ekonomiya. Magugulat tayo yung mga kumpanyang listed dito sa ating bansa, pati sa ibang bansa. Yung growth rates, 20, 30, 50, or even close to 100% or even more. Kasi dahil nga po doon sa phenomenon na yon. So, pero ina-acknowledge naman po na bloated lang po yun ng low base effect. Yung ano lang, talagang...
Ayun.
Ganun po yun.
Hindi naman sinasadya, tinatamad lang.
Pero ano po yung best practice po talaga. Halimbawa sa Amerika, yung mga biggest airlines kasi tinamaan po yung airlines among the
correct.
Yan yung halimbawa sila yung mga biggest airlines po doon. Ang reckoning po nila 2019. Are we back to pre-COVID levels, no? So tama po yung sinabi niyo. That's really pragmatic and practical and realistic na dapat nandoon yung benchmark. Ganon din po dito dapat sa ating bansa. Kaya ayun po yung reckoning kasi kumusta naman yung yung kabuhayan, yung mga presyo, yung kinikita ngayon, does it compare to 2019, yung kinikita ng mga tao on the average. Yung mga kumpanya, ganun din, no? Yung benta nila, yung kita nila. pareho ba doon sa pre-pandemic? Ayun na talaga yung intelligent na reckoning, kumbaga, para makita yung realidad.
What is the consequence? Ano ang nagiging problema when we don't correct the computations or the averaging? Kasi ngayon, sinasabi nito mga magagaling na nasa labas o mga politiko, nag-growth ang we have a 7.6 growth rate. Sabi ko, ayan na, nalintikan na, parang nangako ka ng langit doon sa gutom na gutom, maniningil yan. What are the actual consequences in the economy or in the business community ng ganitong parang sandali, parang hindi yata tama yung data na yan? What will happen if we use that data for decision making and policies?
Actually, acknowledge naman po yun. I attended the press briefing then. Parang yung base effect nandoon talaga. Pero ito talaga yung parang mawawala din kasi yung mababang base na yan. Kasi wala na po tayong lockdowns this year. So yung data next year, 2023, that's the moment of truth for our economy. Kasi magko-compare tayo na wala nang lockdown na 2020, kung wala pa rin lockdown din, na yun naman yung policy priority. Tapos kukumpara natin this year, so far wala nang lockdowns din, kasi alert level system tayo, anniversary ng Nobyembre last year, 1 year anniversary na phase out na yung mga large scale lockdown na ECQ, GCQ, and so on, yung derivatives nun, wala na yun.
Yes.
So kaya ayun ang moment of truth next year. Tapos syempre, pero ano pa rin talaga, kasi yung ordinaryong tao, syempre, yung nararamdaman nila, magkano yung kinikita nila ngayon? Tapos kukumpara yan noong 2019. At magkano ngayon yung gastusin nila? At magkano yung natitira? Dahil nga tumaas yung presyo ng mga bilihin. No? Are they better off or worse off? Kasi yung kikitain minus yung expenditure nila, tumaas yung presyo ng mga bilihin. Lahat na lang halos tumaas ngayon. No? So, yung matitira, how does that compare? Yung neto, yung natira doon sa kinita at ginastos.
Okay.
Kung meron pa natira, how does that compare to 2019? So parang ayun po talaga yung medyo, well, if we are really far from that pre-pandemic level, yung tulad ng ganun yung reckoning ng para nang talaga medyo transparent din. Although transparent din naman yung pagsabi kasi nasa paggamit naman yan. Wag lang spin kasi din yung may dangers din of spinning yung, di ba, yung biglang spike in the growth rate. Pero medyo pala yon. At it turns out, fallacy pala yon.
Ang tawag doon nung panahon namin, kasi ang laki ng tanda ko sa'yo, ampaw.
So, yun po. That's exactly.
Walang laman. Ang laki, pero wala palang laman. Okay, we'll go for a quick break, Mike. And when we come back, I'd like to stay on this conversation. Kasi mabuti na rin yung naintindihan ng tao dahil baka maraming iba dyan biglang, umunlad na yung ekonomiya. Tara, labas na natin yung ating savings at laban na natin. Tapos biglang, sorry ka na lang, Day. Okay, we'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back here on Agenda. 8 minutes to go for our interview here on Agenda with Mike Ricafort, Chief Economist for the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you, Cito, and your viewers.
Okay, now, Mike, pinag-uusapan natin kanina. We were talking about, the truth behind the numbers. When experts or projections are declare 7.6 growth compared to a year where there was zero or negative growth, then it can be misleading, it can be dangerous. Sabi ko nga during the break, para kang yumakap na akala mo true love mo, sinungaling pala. I think that's the best analogy I can make. And I called it ampaw. And you said that it is the same term that experts like you and your associates use?
Hanggang ngayon, kahit sa abroad Kaya nga, the more intelligent way of measuring it, kahit yung mga biggest companies in the US and in the world, no? Kasi otherwise, mislead yung tao, makita triple digit, sobrang taas ng growth. Dahil nga doon sa base, yung very low base, yung pinanggalingan is much worse, no? So, yung actual na level, like halimbawa, ganito, ito yung example na if you are to be to be also pragmatic about it. May bright spots pa rin naman yung ekonomiya. Like true, may bright spots, meron ding not so bright spots. Dito tayo, halimbawa sa bright spots, yung remittances data natin, yung OFW remittances, among record high. Kahit nung nag-pandemic, talagang tinipay na yon. Kasi understandably, marami tinamaan ng pandemya, mas kailangan tulungan yung mga yung mga dependents or family members na dito. So tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung pagpapadala. Ngayon tumaas yung presyo ng bilihin, ganun din yung analogy, yung social impact mo. Kaya among record highs pa rin siya. Kaya nakakasuporta pa rin siya sa consumer spending, which is around almost 74% of our economy, consumer spending na. No? So tapos yung ibang data like independent data din, yung exports natin, di record high. So, pero merong dapat usisain din natin ito mabuti. Bakit ba nagbalon yung exports natin? Kasi tumaas din yung presyo ng mga commodities na in-export natin. So, dapat medyo maano rin tayo, you circumspect and fair about it. No?
Kumbaga, sasabihin ng gobyerno, tumaas ang total dollar value o binenta natin abroad. Ang tumaas yung dollar value pero hindi yung volume ng mga pinabenta natin sa mga iba-ibang bansa that we exported.
Going forward, napaka-importante po nun, Cito, to have that eventually. Siguro, maybe in 10, 20 years time, mas magiging transparent. Siyempre, mas matrabaho yun. It would take a lot of work para himay-himayin yun, no? Yung dollar value, madali lang. Kasi nasa reports naman yun, to consolidate lang. Pero pagka sa volume, pwede rin naman Pero sa mga bansa sa buong mundo, dollar value pa rin sila. So, parang hindi pa realistically, parang challenging talaga gawin yun. Pero yun ang tama talaga na yun ang talagang tamang pag-measure doon. Diba sa manufacturing, yan, medyo ganyan din, no? Merong yung metric on volume of manufacturing production, no? Yung kahit yung isang manufacturing gauge, yung PMI na tinatawag, ang level nun, yung expansion level nun, the highest since it's already the highest even before the pandemic. So maaring may ganung treatment din na kailangan gawin, no? Kasi dahil nakadagdag din yung pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, di ba? Sa value din ng mga manufacturers, no? So, pero nonetheless, ganun yung sinasabi niya at face value, no? On the surface, na it's the highest since at least before the pandemic started in January 2020. So, ganun yung data na lumalabas, no? Halimbawa, pero yung naman mas makatarungan talaga na para rin yung decision sound, no? Actually from the point of view of the policy makers, from the point of view of the businesses, also from the private sector, kung makita talaga yung tunay na estado para talaga yung
You know, Mike, it's interesting. Ito yung value ng matandang katulad ko I reminisce. I am reminded of a Japanese executive when I was working for Sony named Nakatani-san. And I remember him telling me specifically in my early years as an employee, where he said, Cito-san, when make report to Japan, make sure you put everything in report, good and bad. Do not pay attention to what people will say or think. Just make report the way it is, good and bad. Because if you only send good report, they will give you support based on good report. If you send bad report, they might send you team to help you in solving problems. So parang the outcome or resolution of problems or projects will always be affected by the accuracy of the data you provide. And that's where you're taking this conversation, right? Or you have taken this conversation.
Yeah, doon po talaga yung direction. Actually, noon pa po yun. No? Talagang that's transparency there at its finest. No? So, ngayon naman, kahit papano, kahit yung policy makers natin, they have never been this transparent as in the past. Nag-evolve naman po. Halimbawa, yung interest rates natin. Dati, nangguhula tayo dyan kung saan akit. Yung sinasabi na po nila, kung saan papunta. Halimbawa, nagtaas yung US interest rates ng 0.75 in November 2. Mm-hmm. Yung next policy meeting, yung rate setting meeting locally, November 17. So sinasabi na po nila, may guidance na. Sabi, 0.75. Kumbaga, nadaig pa yung ibang central bank eh. Kasi ibang central bank, although nagsisignal din sila, pero parang gano'n din naman actually. Pero transparent na po ngayon. Unlike before, wala pong ganyan. Maghuhula, lahat naghuhula. So, tapos gano'n din sa exchange. Sa peso, sinasabi nila, nag-intervene sila, no? Mm-hmm. May intervention na ginagawa, no? So, yun.
Which is why the peso has sustained itself or has at least remained stable in comparison, and which is why parang yung impression of economic managers remain good and confident. Kasi kung sinasabi mo, yung panahon na sinasabi mong hula-hula, I remember those years back in the 80s or in the 70s where, people were just speculating on anything and everything that had some sort of value. Kumbaga, ay nako, magkakaproblema sa dollar, so bili sila ng lupa, bili sila ng diamante, etc. or ng gold bars.
So, totoo ngayon, mas certain na. Ayun po yung benefit po nun. Mas transparent. Kasi maganda rin yun eh. Mas makakapag-decision mabuti yung mga tao. Mm-hmm. Yung mapa-consumer yan, mga negosyo, private sector, or pati yung mga ibang institution. So they can plan better. Well, and it also creates greater certainty, stability, and order in the whole economy and also in the financial market.
Para may pakinabang naman yung employer mo, no? Tsaka yung grupo mo. As far as RCBC is concerned, what is your most popular instrument that people feel safe with at the moment? Given all of these disruptions, all of this uncertainty globally, what is the battleship of RCBC now?
Ngayon naman po kasi dahil marami naman pong products din, investment, deposit products, and other services din, no? So, yung mga ngayon kasi depende rin, it's a function of the needs also. Binamatch din yan sa pangangailangan ng tao or ng negosyo.
But is it more of investment or loans?
Pareho po. Both, we of course, as a lender, no? So, yung mga loans, lalo na po ngayon, tumataas po kasi yung interest rate. So, tapos normal na po yung ekonomiya. So, mas nagiging certain na rin po yung mga natin. Ayun po yung dahil mas nakakapagplano na mabuti yung mga negosyo, no? They in terms of new investment, expansion plans, capital expenditure, working capital. So, yun, nag-pick up na po yung loan demand. The fastest is more than 2 years. Tapos, syempre, yung on the investment side ngayon, medyo no? So, marami kasing produkto like yung various deposit products,
Well,
Tapos,
well, clearly, banks are active, RCBC is active, and so kahit na we are pounding on the need for transparency, for accurate data, for doing the averaging, at least it's nice to know that things are moving on. So, Mike, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but thank you for a very interesting conversation this morning.
thank you so much, Cito, and to all your viewers. And always nice to be back.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike Ricafort, and greetings to the Ricafort family. Don Piping Ricafort, good morning to you, sir. Okay, that's all for our interview. Let's go to our closing blessing for the week. This is the final blessing. It's a Friday. We leave you with this week's blessing from 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 to 2. I urge you, first of all, to pray for all people. Ask God to help them, intercede on their behalf, and give thanks for them. Pray this way for kings and all who are in authority. Pakiusap ko na po, isama nyo na ako sa dasal nyo kasi maraming mga desisyon that I have to make. And I pray for the Lord's favor. God bless all of you. Have a great weekend. And please keep it here on One News.